When I first load up a survival game, I'm filled with both excitement and dread at the same time. Never knowing what's going to happen next is an exhilarating feeling that I live for, and survival games deliver on this so well. Grounded is no different. The first time I fought a wolf spider in melee combat went about as well as you could expect, but with time I improved and soon wolf spiders were no longer a problem. If you watched my previous videos covering my adventures in Grounded, then you saw how I applied myself to take on even stronger things, eventually getting to the point where even the Broodmother and Mantis weren't a problem anymore. However, there was still something lurking in the backyard that would challenge me to a whole new level. In my 100 days of surviving the backyard and Grounded, I improved my gear, my base, and my skill. It's been a long road, and now it's time to apply it all to the ultimate enemy. With that said, my name is Skullytin, and I hope you enjoy my solo Grounded experience. My playthrough of Grounded has been filled with exciting finds, challenges, losses, and victories. No matter what's going on though, one thing is for sure, time doesn't stop moving. I was now on the 75th day of inhabiting and exploring the backyard, and if you watched my other Grounded videos, you probably know what's coming. I grabbed the BBQ medley I previously crafted, farmed some materials to stock up on ammo, and made my way over to the Brawny Boy bin. There was a boss room inside the Wasp Hive, and it was time to tackle it. As I entered the hive, I loaded my crossbow with salt arrows since I learned wasps are weak to salt earlier in my playthrough, and then summoned the boss. Just as I thought it would be, it was the Wasp Queen. The Wasp Queen was dead. She gave me a rather important material that would be useful for something big, but you'll see more on that later in the video. After cleaning up the hive of all my ammo I fired during the fight against the Queen, I started to make my way back to base to drop off the goods and take on the next objective. There were still main story things to do outside of all the big boss fights I've been so busy with, so I took some time to stop by the JavaMatic Machine to see what else needed to be done before I could install the embiggening cocktail. I already had the grilled science from Dr. Tully, so figuring everything else out was needed to progress the main story. I stopped by the lab where Dr. Tully was waiting and brought him with me over to the JavaMatic Machine. I had to blow open a hole in the side of the machine, and it made me happy that I have a policy of carrying at least one Brot Burst on me at all times. After blasting my way inside, I made my way up to the top of the machine. At this point, I'm supposed to deposit all the ingredients for the cocktail, but I didn't have any of them on me. I had to grab a couple of things like the koi fish scales. Once again, I headed back to base, this time to gather up any materials that are needed for the cocktail that I already had. While I was doing this, I got an alert that my base was being raided by mosquitoes. Because of my base location, I'm immune to the majority of raids, but this time I wasn't because of the fact that mosquitoes fly. The major benefit to this is that they drop blood sacs, an important component to craft and heal bosses. As the mosquitoes flew in, I held up defense with the turret installed on the top of my base. The first wave wasn't bad at all. Unfortunately, however, I hadn't invested any materials into making better ammo for the turret, so the second wave proved to be a lot more resilient. I gave up using the turret and started taking the attack to the mosquitoes the way I usually do. Now that my base was safe and secure, I got back on track with my goal of getting the last few materials I needed for the embiggening cocktail. First, I stopped over at the pond to get one more koi fish scale, then I went to get a few toenails from the table by the shed. With everything I needed for the cocktail in my pocket, I headed back to the JavaMatic Machine and Dr. Tully. Once I got to the top and deposited the materials, I got this cutscene. I was now tasked with repairing the nearby mixer modules, which meant I needed to craft a repair wrench since I didn't usually carry one around with me. Luckily, it didn't take much to make it, so I whipped it up quickly after gathering the materials nearby. With everything in hand, I put together a wrench and then repaired the mixer modules. Once completed, Dr. Tully wanted to talk to me, so I went up to him.
This all reeks of Schmector. I must warn you, the fusion process for the embiggening cocktail is quite loud. It will continue to draw attention from the director's little army. And it will take some time to prove, I'm afraid. We'll need to defend those mixer modules for as long as it takes.
So now I had to defend the modules I just repaired. At first, I didn't think much of it, but this would become one of the toughest things I had to do in my time spent playing Grounded. Knowing that there's 3 mixer modules and lots of open area around, I had a feeling the enemies would be numerous. I took some time to do the basic thing of making simple grass walls around each module to give them some basic defenses against whatever comes to attack. This process took a while, but eventually I had walls surrounding each module. After getting all the walls up, I waited for the sun to rise and then started up the brewing process for the cocktail.
The hero's last stand begins!
At first I was able to handle things okay. There were a lot of bugs, but none of that was overwhelming. However, it wasn't long before the big ones started heading in and changed the difficulty of this entire process. Unfortunately, while I was trying to take down a black ox beetle, a couple of dust mites had taken out one of the mixer modules and foiled my attempt at completing this on my first try. Even though I lost here, it wasn't in vain. I learned a lot about what to expect, and I had an idea of how I could prepare better. You see, I played a lot of Rust when it first came out and actually played a good bit of it rather recently. When you make a base in Rust, one of the biggest things you can do to prevent player raids or at least resist them longer is something called honeycombing. The premise is simple. You set up interconnected walls to create layers of armor around the interior walls, so it takes longer to actually get inside. Considering how close I got to completing the brewing process with just one layer of walls around all the modules and had a good general idea of where the attacks were most concentrated, I honeycombed the weakest points. I also took time to use weed stems to make palisades for even more defense. This would give me a lot more time to deal with the numerous insects that were coming to attack. After setting all of this up, I started once again to take on the hordes of bugs. With the defense being a big success with a few close calls, I was able to go retrieve the embiggening cell.
I think we've done it!
Once I picked it up, I was given what seemed to be the final quest of the game. I wasn't quite sure if it was, but the language of it alluded to that, so I made a point to hold off on doing this one for a while. There were still some things I wanted to do, including exploring an area I haven't been able to get to quite yet. Something I've wanted to do for a while is find a way over to the giant Frankenstein-like head over at the upper pond. There's a ton of mosquitoes there that I farm on the regular for their blood sacs, but I never took the time to make a way over there. It wasn't until I was building the honeycombed walls around the mixer modules earlier that I had an idea. I could build a makeshift bridge to cross the moat and get inside. I didn't stay at the base long after getting the embiggening cell. I headed straight back out there to see if I could do this thing. All the while I was building this bridge, an already tedious task, I was constantly harassed by tiger mosquitoes. After the onslaught of mosquitoes was over, I continued building the bridge. It wouldn't be long now before I was finally able to see what was inside this strange structure. Now that the bridge was complete, I could finally see what was over here. After being curious for so long, I was hoping I would find something big. I first saw a path leading down below, but it didn't look like there was a way back up, so I opted to look around the upper area first.
Taking a look. The air fills with the buzz of a giant blood-sucking mosquito.
I took out a couple of mosquitoes at the top and found a way to parachute down to a cage off the side of the structure and get a mega milk molar, but outside of that I couldn't find anything of value. With nothing else here to discover, I went back to the hole and jumped inside. Here, I would find something quite interesting.
This isn't one of mine. My suspicions were correct. This lab is not one of mine. I knew it! Schmector has been spying on me this whole time. It's now or never. Are you ready?
It turns out that the man responsible for taking over the research over drinking people after Dr. Tully was behind quite a lot of the problems in the backyard. And it seems I found his secret lab. This wouldn't be all I find here though. Just when I didn't think it could get more interesting, I find this. The recipe for the moldy hoagie. I didn't quite know what it would be for, aside from clearly another boss that I had yet to discover the location of. My to-do list just became one objective longer. I wasn't yet finished here though, so I carried on to see what else was going on in this secret lab. I searched every inch of this lab, not finding anything else interesting except a statue blueprint, so I followed the path deeper down into the lab. It wasn't long before I found a room with a button in the center and a bunch of fixtures on the walls. I knew I was in for a fight here. Unfortunately, I didn't have any healing items on me, and considering that I was in for a boss fight, I had to leave to go get some. It didn't take me long before I was back in the lab to see how things would go. As I walked up to investigate the big red button, I noticed a health bar popped up in the top of the screen titled Director Schmector. It looked like I'll be taking him on in some fashion here. Director Schmector went on to explain that he authorized experimentation on children because they're resistant to reasoning, alongside insulting Dr. Tully. Soon though, he was in the room with me, or at least a floating monitor with his face was.
All that remains is to take out the trash. Farewell, my little rats. Stay right there and this will all be over before you know it.
Suddenly, it was time to fight, and this fight was certainly not easy. Barrages of electric orbs, spiders being summoned into the room, as well as moving lasers made it difficult to navigate, survive, and counterattack. I died quite a few times to all of this. Something I've learned in my many hours of playing video games: if you don't give up, eventually things will go your way. I tried again and again, and after learning the fight well enough, I took it to Schmector. It was finally over. Director Schmector took me down several times due to the pure chaos of this room. It felt good to deal it back. I looted Schmector's monitor body and found a data disk that had some cool things on it, including a way to make a high-end upgrade materials out of insect parts. I also liked the idea of the sour battle axe. Now that I was free from the secret lab, there was just one more thing I wanted to do. I was now on the hunt for the next boss fight, the one that ties to the moldy hoagie. I made my way back to base first though, as I wanted to try the sour battle axe out while I explored for this other boss. Remember earlier when I said that the Wasp Queen dropped an important item that would be useful later? Well, it turns out that in order to craft the moldy hoagie, it requires the heads of the Wasp Queen, the Mantis, and the Broodmother alongside some toenails. This alone told me that the next boss fight was going to be something special. I made myself one of these in the event I found the boss arena, and then I took my new battle axe on a tour of the backyard. One thing I can say for certain about the axe is that the stun factor on it is incredible. While I still like the toenail scimitar and the scythe more, I would keep it around just to bash things with every so often. While I was out exploring possible locations for where this boss could be, I had a thought. I didn't know if it would amount to anything, but I remembered seeing another webbed cave entrance in the trenches of the Haze area that looked much like the Black Widow and Broodmother lairs. Considering that the boss item I crafted is called Moldy Hoagie, it fits the Haze area of the map really well. With nothing to lose except time, I went over for a bit of investigating. It took me a bit to search every trench, but I finally found what I was looking for. As soon as I walked into the cave, mold spores started exploding and I had a feeling I was in the right place. Upon walking into the main chamber, it looked a lot like the Broodmother's lair in the hedge, but with spores surrounding the area. Tucked away in the back corner was just what I was looking for, the spot to summon the boss. I was here for this very purpose, so I wasted no time in seeing what boss would be summoned here. This thing was horrifying, and it has the perfect name to go with it. The infected Broodmother looked just like its name, an infected version of the first large boss I took out earlier in my playthrough. I took the fight right to it, already knowing the moveset of spiders and grounded. It wasn't long before I defeated it, or so I thought. Oh, that was easy. I can't loot it. Oh, shit. Alright. Something I was not prepared for was the giant infected spider to come back to life. That wasn't all though, as not only did it come back to life, it came back with additional moves I had never seen before from anything else in the game and a lot more health than previously. It was capable of screaming and making explosive spores drop from the ceiling, as well as putting down a large explosive spore underneath it and then jumping away while causing a thick fog to appear. It could even heal if it was in the range of any of the explosions. I knew in this moment that this fight was going to get rough, and it certainly did. It shouldn't come as a surprise that the infected Broodmother gave me a lot of trouble. It would kill me over and over and over again. Eventually though, as I learned the fight, I was able to take it down, and that, my friends, is when this happened. Not only did it go back to full health, but it also seemingly took on a frenzy. Its attack speeds varied from normal to extremely fast, and had a combination of both movesets from Phase 1 and Phase 2. I kept trying and kept dying until eventually it became quite late and I had to call it a night. I had been quite sick recently, and I couldn't stay up too late playing video games. I needed my rest. It was the next day that I would get up, realign my gear and strategy just a bit, and hope I could defeat the infected Broodmother. After getting a good night of rest, I came back to grounded with a fresh mindset. I took a moment to look over all of my gear and decided to make a couple of changes. Something I learned during my previous fights against the infected Broodmother is that I wasn't doing damage quickly enough and my block kept getting broken. To change this, I decided to do two things: craft the Fire and Armor set and use the Shield Solidifier. The Shield Solidifier is great because it gives additional block strength. While the goal here is to perfect guard so you don't have to worry about this, the reality is that the changing speed of attacks in the third phase of the infected Broodmother would make this incredibly tough to do. The reason for the Fire Ant armor is simple as well. Upgrading it to Sleek allows me to deal additional acid damage, which is great additional damage to what I'm already doing. If you're wondering where I'm even getting acid damage from, the answer is also the Fire Ant armor set. You see, when you equip an entire armor set in Grounded, you can gain additional set bonuses. In the case of Fire Ant armor, it allows for a bonus called Acidic Splash, which gives me a chance to deal acid damage while attacking in melee. I was hoping that this would give me the edge and damage I needed, and I'd soon find out. I headed back over to the infected Broodmother's lair, looking to take it down once and for all. I was certain that this would take me a while, so I settled in for the long haul. Without hesitating any longer, I summoned the boss. I did it. The infected Broodmother has been defeated. The single toughest boss in the entire game taken down. Unfortunately, I was sick at the time that I did this, like I mentioned earlier, but I promise you, I yelled F yeah once I saw the spider was actually dead. I did feel like an idiot after a moment of celebration, however, because, well, if you look at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see I never equipped the shield solidifier for the fight. It certainly would have helped, but I guess I can say that I made it through the fight without being fully optimized for it. After discovering my mistake, feeling stupid, I started making my way home to see what things I could make out of the materials gained from the infected Broodmother. Of course, there was an armor set, but the most interesting thing to me was a weapon that allows you to throw exploding spores and they regenerate, so you essentially have limitless ammunition. The unfortunate part of this is that I needed a lot more materials for this, so I would need to defeat the infected Broodmother at minimum one more time and hope for a generous amount of materials as loot. While this was entirely possible, I was excited to see the end of the game. I took one last night of rest and watched the sun rise over my base before heading over to the spacer. When I made it to the spacer and installed the embiggening cell, Dr. Tully showed up to see me off.
We need to talk. Well, here we are. Back where it all began.
And just like that, I was a normal-sized human again. Surviving in Grounded for 100 days and clearing all the bosses and story was a great experience and definitely something I'd play again. In fact, a huge update for the game came out recently, so I may check it out soon. There's also a lot of games out there I would like to try, so stay tuned to see what comes next. Games like Grounded make me itch to discover what other gems are out there, so I'll absolutely be searching. Thank you all for joining me on my solo Grounded adventure, and I'll see you soon for more. Until then, Skullytin out.
It's not true.